right? Colleague, Mr. Cole?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everybody who came and testified today. And as I'm sure you're not surprised to know, Mr. Chairman, we view this somewhat differently than you do. Quite frankly, the president was here all December prepared to negotiate. He wasn't in Hawaii where the speaker was at. He offered a deal to cut in half the amount of money that he had requested for border security. It's reported in the press. I was not part of that negotiation, from about $5 billion down to about $2.5 billion. That's usually what people call a fair deal. Let's split the difference between something. And that would have stopped this government shutdown from happening. To say that we have voted on these bills, in a sense, is true. We voted on them last week, so I don't know why we're voting on them again this week, unless it's merely for political posturing. I agree with my friend, Mr. Adderholt, who I think summed this up brilliantly in one phrase. The bills in front of us may well be bipartisan, but they're certainly not bicameral. There is zero input from any member of the House of Representatives in those bills. My friend, Mr. Calvert, my good friend, Chairwoman McCollum, worked really hard in Interior. And my friend had the numbers exactly right on the Indian health care. If you care about Indian health care, you'd want to vote for the House bill. And that bill, as I recall, I was part of the larger conference on a bundle of bills, had been fully written out. Why in the world didn't the Democrats simply take where we had agreements with the Senate? You don't have to go back to the Senate bill. You literally had written out bills that could have been this today that would have represented House products. I would suggest the only reason it's not is because they somehow think that's going to be more embarrassing to the Senate. If that's the attitude in approaching a negotiation, you don't have a negotiation. And this is not going to move us one step closer to a resolution. I would suggest a lesson here for both sides, and I would direct it at my side as well. When you're dealing with something in domestic politics, if you're trying to achieve absolute victory, you're almost always going to fail because it leaves you a divided country and it leaves you an embittered electorate. When somebody offers to split the difference on something, as the president did, that probably should have been done. We've got products that have been negotiated out and have been compromises, and where, frankly, the priorities of 435 of our members are represented, other than just 100 United States senators. You're in a lot better shape. So I don't have a lot of questions here, although I'm not ever going to simply allow the United States Senate to dictate what the House of Representatives does in terms of funding. This is the most egregious surrender of House prerogatives and funding power that probably any speaker has ever done. We'll just throw away everything we've done for a year, and we'll take whatever the United States Senate managed to agree on itself and send that to the president. And we're going to do that knowing that it's not likely to get picked up by the Senate, and it's certainly not going to be signed by the president. So I would suggest that all those people that want to talk about negotiation actually start negotiating, actually go to meetings and send people that are empowered to make decisions, and look at something that's reasonable, a $2.5 billion reduction in what was a pretty modest request to begin with at $5 billion is, hey, that's a pretty good deal. That could have saved us all this trouble. Instead, I think we had people that wanted to fight a political war to the end, and the American people are paying for it. And frankly, I think that includes people probably on both sides of the aisle, but it certainly includes, the principals that were charged to negotiate a deal. So why we are doing this again, we did it last week. It's still sitting over there in the United States Senate. If they want to take them up, they can do it. But I suspect badgering them is not the way to get there. That's just my personal view. Again, I had a whole series of questions. I'm not going to belabor them because I could literally sit here and ask each member what was better about the bill that they had designed and written themselves, and they could each give me an answer about an hour long why what the House did was better. And to say that we didn't get our work done, well, in a sense, that's true, although I will say in defense of the committee, that was the best record of getting appropriations bills on time in full in 22 years. This process would be a lot worse if we hadn't got the Labor H bill and the defense bill and a number of other bills across the line. So in terms of the record, frankly, it'll be interesting to see whether or not this Congress can pass 75% of government funding by September 30th. I hope it can, and I will actually work with you. But I don't think this exercise is going to move us to where I know you want to go and I know where I want to go, which is getting the government reopened. It's going to make everybody more bitter. It's going to make them more entrenched. It's not moving us in the right way. And I would suggest, too, doing it under rule is very much at odds with the manner in which the new majority said it wanted to operate. This is not the way to begin. This is a closed rule on a multi-billion-dollar, hundreds and hundreds of billion dollars of spending with no House member, majority or minority, liberal or conservative, having any impact whatsoever on a vast portion of federal spending. So I regret this egregious surrender of institutional power and authority. I think it's a bad example that will come back to haunt us because it'll be cited again. And I don't think, with all due respect to all concerned, that it offers any prospect of a negotiated settlement that reopens the government. So we can go through this exercise. We'll have a lot of fun on the floor, and we'll throw darts back and forth, and we can get a lot of speakers lined up, but nothing in this bill will move us toward a solution. With that, Mr.